this presentation we'll be discussing numbers. We will be looking specifically at the types of numbers we use and how they are related to each other. Here are the names of the different types of numbers we use in math. I've created this inverted pyramid to visually describe the different types of numbers. The size of the blocks represent the size of the number sets, and the colored rows represent the subsets used to create the set of numbers above. Remembering back when we were little and our mother taught us to count, we started with one car, 2 cars, and so on. These numbers are called our counting numbers, or what mathematicians like to call our natural numbers. They start with 1 and go on. These are the numbers we use to quantify and order things in our world. After we learn to count and order objects, we need something to denote the absence of quantity. What if Jeremy had 3 cars and Jessica had 1, but I didn't have any? This is where 0 comes into play. Zeros is the number used to denote the absence of quantity. Now let's go back to our inverted pyramid. Let's take a look at where we are. We have discussed the 2 bottom red blocks. These are the beginnings of our number systems, and they are the smallest sets of numbers in our number system. The natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0. Next on our climb up the pyramid is whole numbers. Simply stated, this is a set of numbers created by bringing together the natural numbers and 0. The only difference between the natural numbers and whole numbers is that 0 is included in the whole numbers. Since we have a symbol for the lack of quantity, something was needed to denote quantities less than 0. So we created a set of numbers called negative numbers. These are the numbers located on the left side of the number line. They represent quantities less than no quantity. Now we need to go back and look at what we have created. We started with the numbers we learned when we were little, added 0, and created a set called the whole numbers. To our whole numbers, we added in our negative numbers. As you can see, we keep adding a new set to create a larger set. Integers. The integers are created by grouping together the whole numbers and negative numbers. This is one of the more important sets of numbers in mathematics. Integers are referred to frequently. Fractions are a part of the whole. We frequently use fractions in everyday life. We use them in carpentry, in cooking, in shopping, and many other tasks. They are used as representation of part of one whole. Let's review. We started with our counting numbers, added 0 and negative numbers, and created a set called integers. From there, we need to denote part of the whole, so we created fractions. We are halfway through our system of numbers. Let's climb a little higher. The definition of a rational number is technically any number that can be written as a fraction. We must remember that whole numbers can easily be transformed into a fraction by adding 1 under the number. Any terminating decimal or any repeating decimal can also be written as a fraction. Now let's take a few seconds to go back and look at our pyramid. Again, we started with our counting numbers, and now we have the need for numbers that are non-ending and non-repeating, or irrational. Out of all the sets we have looked at so far, the most important ones are integers and rational numbers. This is the end of our tangible numbers. Basically, the set of real numbers is any number you can think of. Real numbers include all of the sets of numbers we have just discussed. Imaginary numbers. Well, imaginary numbers are not real. Basically, you get an imaginary number when you try to take the square root of a negative number. Imaginary numbers are written with an I, like negative 3i, 2i, and so on. As you can see, we are climbing fast to the top of our inverted pyramid. The real numbers is where the tangible world ends, and from there, numbers are created to help make our life a little easier to explain things that cannot be done in the real numbers. Finally, we have reached the top of our pyramid with the complex numbers and our largest set of numbers we know. The complex numbers are made up of real numbers and imaginary numbers, and are always written in the form of a plus bi, where a is our real number and bi is our imaginary number. Now that we have completed our climb up the number period, the important thing to take away from all this is that these sets have relationships with each other and are all used to define the world around us. The end. Thank you for your time in watching this little movie. This has been a production of Breslab Media, all rights reserved.